Welcome home, friends. I'm Tonya Long, and this is Reset, where purpose meets possibility. Each week, we share conversations with thought leaders, innovators, and the dreamers and doers who are reshaping the future of work, technology, longevity, and purpose. Whether you're navigating AI's impact, reimagining your career, or searching for deeper meaning, you're in the right place. So settle in, open your mind, and let's explore what happens when purpose meets possibility. Did you realize that 7 words can change your life? They can, but only if those 7 words catalyze action. Join us today on Reset as we explore how clarity of purpose becomes a powerful force for transformation. Today we have Ian Chamandy, co-founder of PurposeU, and he has built an ingenious couple of decades of experience helping people define their purpose. So today, through real stories of purpose-driven change, including my own journey over the weekend to rediscover my own 7-word purpose statement, we'll show how finding your purpose is just the beginning. So let's learn how purpose becomes your decision-making compass today on Reset. Ian, we are so excited to have you here. You are the co-founder of PurposeU. You're the creator of something called a blueprint for purpose system. And when I heard about you, I was so excited to get you on the show. I've always been interested in quantifying and articulating who we are and how we show up so that we can be focused on what our activities are. And your entire platform is built to do that. We'll talk a lot about it, but you started this with groups of people 15 years ago, and during COVID, you realized the value of it for individuals. And now with AI's onslaught into the world and how we can use it to make things better, you've seen the wisdom of LLMs and how they can help us get to those better words. We've had those conversations. So tell us about your journey. I've just hit the tops of the waves. Tell us more about what PurposeU and your journey has led you to.
Sure. And thank you very much for having me here.
You're
I'm
welcome.
quite grateful for the opportunity to speak to your audience. So my journey started about 20 years ago. My business partner and I developed a process. We were both passionate about strategic planning, which is kind of a lost art in business. And but we had been involved in the traditional way all our careers, and we were frustrated by it. And so, mission, vision, and values and all that crap.
Mm. It's not crap.
And pardon me?
It's not crap. We need it.
Well, okay, but hang on a sec. In theory, but it's crap in practice. How people do it, what they decide is their mission and vision. And I defy you to find somebody who can define for me the difference between vision and mission. We decided to create something new. And what evolved over time was a really simple 3-step process that was predicated on the idea. Now, keep in mind, I'm starting with businesses now. It's predicated on the simple notion that your single most important strategic asset as a business is knowing the one thing at your essence that makes you uniquely remarkable as a company. And so we built our system on that. And the idea is that you start out by saying, okay, what is it that makes you uniquely remarkable? Wouldn't it be great if you could articulate it? And then the company could be the best version of themselves intentionally because they know what makes them uniquely remarkable. And so we decided, and this was something that happened over time, that expression of what makes you uniquely remarkable, our standard became 7 words or less. So it's actually or less. And most of them are 2 or 3 or 4 words. For most companies, this is going to be an epiphany. It's like, holy cow, had no idea. But now we see ourselves as much bigger than we ever did before because we realize what our full value is as articulated by the one thing that makes us uniquely remarkable. And when you know what it is, you're now at the starting line because as you
Mm,
said up front, putting it into action, what do you do with that expression? Great to know it. What do you do with it? Well, you do two things if you're a company. You design how you're going to operate, all of the day-to-day machinations of the company, what
right.
your services are, all that stuff. And then you design how you're going to communicate. And what that means is that all the activities of the company, all the operational activities, all the communication activities, they all flow from that one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable. So they are all communicating, either seeping out through their pores or screaming, through a megaphone,
Right.
stuff that is based on what makes you uniquely remarkable, totally focused, always, always, always on track. So then what happened was that was sort of step one. And then just before COVID, I found this quote by Pablo Picasso, the famous artist. I
Oh,
found,
absolutely.
yeah, this
I
great
mean,
quote.
and I love quotes. So what did you retain that he gave you?
The meaning of life is to find your gift.
Oh, yeah, that's his.
Your
Mhm.
your purpose is to share it with the world. So I just rephrased it a bit because that's
Mhm.
what I do. I like to simplify things. And I said, your purpose is to find your gift and share it with the world. Okay. So that's Pablo's modified quote,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What I what I had been doing for the last 20 years is finding what makes you uniquely remarkable, your gift. So that sentence can actually be changed one more time to your purpose is to discover that one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable, your gift, and share it with the world. So, like 17 years into the business, we started wrapping it in purpose. It's still
Mhm.
strategic planning, but we're wrapping it in purpose. And that's how you become a purpose driven company by discovering what makes you uniquely remarkable and sharing it with, which is your purpose, and sharing it with the world. So then COVID, sorry, I'm on a big monologue
You're
here.
good. Keep going. This is great. This is great level setting for what we're going to
Okay.
be talking through.
My clients were saying, I want to live a life meaning and purpose. I don't know what my purpose is. I said, oh, I can take this behemoth that I've co-created for companies and I can adapt it to individuals. So
Mhm.
you, Tonya, can define what makes you uniquely remarkable at your essence as a human being and share it with the world. And then I had lunch with a guy who was a five-time corporate client of mine.
Mhm.
So he, I told him about the individual blueprint. Blueprint is the name of my
Mhm.
company,
Mhm.
corporate company. And he said, oh, wow, I have an online teaching infrastructure that I can plunk on top of your individual blueprint. And rather than you doing it one-on-one, you can do it one to millions. And I thought that's a great idea. So we set out to create a course. And that's where I am right now. That course
Mhm.
did soft launch a few weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And they did, thank you. And it is a step by step. I lead you. I think there's what, 27 videos, something like that. And there are AI.
They're 3 or 4 minutes each, so don't panic, audience.
Yeah, yeah,
27 seems like a lot, but they're nugget lessons.
yeah. They're between 2 and 10 minutes.
That it's to me that jumping back and forth made the course so much more engaging because I don't want anyone to think that you listen to 5 or 7 hours worth of dialogue and you know your purpose because you don't. It's work. It
Yeah.
is work to get there. It's a lot of thinking only you can uniquely do, but you said it and I deeply believe it. You get there in a much more meaningful way when you're guided through a process that, and having done this kind of work a lot in the last 20 years, I could see the process uncovered itself in front of me, I was like, oh, because it builds, it will actually, it tears down and goes deeper as it builds, to to your own unique priority. So that was fun, and that was a sidebar just to frame that it's not just you teaching people about purpose, it's
Yeah.
you leading people through the exercise of
Yeah.
uncovering their purpose.
Yeah, you go through you so the process is we take two of your accomplishments, ideally one from career and one from your personal life, and I lead you through a process of examining them and deconstructing them so that at the end of a seven-step process, you are you have revealed the beliefs, wants, and talents that drive your life. And that in itself is illuminating.
Mhm.
Um, because you learn so much about yourself in the process, things that you do intuitively or just you don't know
Mhm.
why or how you do them, you just do. All of a sudden, you understand yourself at a much deeper level.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
what you said about deconstruct, going down and then building up. So that's the deconstruction to get your beliefs, wants, and talents, which are the raw data for discovering your purpose in 7 words or
Mhm.
less.
Mhm.
So once we got to that point where we got your list of beliefs, wants, and talents, we move from that table to the purpose table where you start using that to discover,
Mhm.
creating drafts, seeing what resonates for you, seeing what
Mhm.
doesn't resonate for you. And at the end of that process, you are left with your own purpose statement in 7 words or less.
Mhm.
And the thing is, it's all about you, right? It's all about you. So of course you're going to be fascinated by it and the process. Yeah.
So my 25 years in the corporate world, um, I would honestly singly go back to this as to why things lose traction or companies spend for way too much time to accomplish things. And in different points in time, I've called it mission. I've called it the why. I'm a Simon Sinek fan, so I talk about
Well, your seven
why a
words
lot.
or less, your 7 words and less
Mhm.
or less, and your why are exactly the same thing. When I pitched my book to Sinek's editor,
Mhm. Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, I sat down with the guy and I said, here's what the book is about, and I know you did Sinek's book, and the 7 words or less and the why are the same thing.
Mhm.
And he said, so why do I need your book then? What's the difference? And I said, well, Sinek's book is great, and I love that he has become a very high profile evangelist for
Mhm.
what we both believe,
Absolutely.
but there's no methodology.
That's
He
right.
doesn't know how to help you find your why. There was no and I said that to the editor, right? I
Mhm.
said, he
Mhm.
has no, what's the difference between you and Cynic? I said, Cynic has no methodology to get there. And he said, I was shocked. He went, yeah, no methodology. So that was the difference between our two
But if
books.
he gets people to focus on it and believe in it, then those people might be more apt to find you because they're looking to uh, get better at the mechanics. Because there is mechanics. Once you see your system in action, you appreciate the mechanics involved
Yes.
in
Yes.
deconstructing and deciphering, only to synthesize the essence, your words, and I love them, but the essence of who you are and what makes you truly remarkable.
Too much
So,
conversation around purpose is just too woo woo. And I think that that's what scares people off is that it's this woo woo kind of, airy fairy. And it's like,
mhm,
and if you read a lot of the definitions of purpose, they're going to be one of two things. They're either going to be really academic and you don't
mhm,
understand what they're saying, or they're kind of woo woo and you don't buy into
mhm,
it.
mhm,
But when the definition of purpose, when your purpose in life is to be the best you can possibly be, at the root of that is discovering the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable. So this is not, yeah, the process is
mhm,
mechanical,
mhm.
but to me that
In a good
means it's
way, in a
the
positive way.
tangibility. Yes, that's the
Right.
tangibility of
Mhm,
not only the process, but also of purpose itself. It is a tangible thing.
mhm,
And and it becomes a very powerful decision-making tool for you. Maybe I can give you an example of somebody who discovered their purpose and how they used it as a decision-making tool.
Let's talk
Because this is really, you talk about being mechanical. This is as mechanical as it gets. Purpose is a decision-making tool. Option A, option B. How do you decide which one's more aligned with your purpose? And when you say option B is more aligned with your purpose, what you're really saying is option B is more aligned with my beliefs, wants, and talents, the
Mhm.
component.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
your purpose is standing in as a proxy. Make sure it's aligned with purpose, and you've got it aligned with who you are, your beliefs, wants, and talents. So I have this colleague, and she was in her third gig as a CEO.
Mhm.
And this person graduated from high school when she was 16, graduated from university when she was 18, graduated from business school when she was 20.
Mhm.
So, there's a few brain cells cooking up in her head, right? And like I said, third CEO gig, she joined this company 5 years ago. It was in real trouble when she joined. And now, 5 years later, we're sitting having a drink after work, and she said, company's running itself, and I'm kind of bored.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
said, it sounds like you got to move on to your next gig. And she said, oh, yeah, but that just scares the daylights out of me. And it's like, what? What are you talking about? Well, this is what we call a trigger event, right? And a trigger event causes a chain reaction. There's 3 steps in a trigger event. There's the trigger event itself. And in this case, I think I need to change careers. The trigger event creates uncertainty about your future. If you're not contemplating a career change, your career is coming back to this job every day.
Mhm.
Now, you've got a whole bunch of uncertainty about your future. The middle step is uncertainty. And then the final step is that uncertainty causes anxiety, or in the extreme, fear. And other examples of trigger events are graduation, empty nest, retirement, death of a loved one, um, career change by choice, by layoff, by firing, 3
Mhm.
different
Mhm.
options.
Mhm.
So a medical event, right? These are all trigger events that create uncertainty about the future, and that uncertainty causes anxiety or fear. And so purpose is like this mechanical device that helps you make decisions. So I said, you know what? Let's figure out what your purpose is and see if that helps guide you. So we talked, and what she talked about was about how she can't get her brain engaged in something unless it's a pigsty. The bigger mess it is, the more she's
Mhm.
able to engage her brain, and the more she's inspired by the challenge, which is why when the company's running itself, she's bored.
Right. Y that sounds like a lot of CEOs I know.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah.
So I said to her, you know, this is conjuring the image of a whole bunch of soldiers, and they've been in battle for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they've been through hell and back, and now they're at the precipice of a minefield, and a new leader comes to lead them. And she says in a cool, calm voice, don't worry, I've been through a million minefields before. I know exactly what to do. Just follow me, and I will lead you safely to the other side of the minefield. And you can just imagine these soldiers oh, God, thank God. Yes, please just help us get through to the other side in one piece. So her purpose in the right context, which is leading safely through the minefield.
Mhm.
If the right context exists and she states her purpose, everyone goes, that's what I need. That's what I need. My purpose is transforming confusion into clarity. Whenever I talk to a company that doesn't know where to go next, or somebody who is, troubled by something in their life, when I say transforming confusion into clarity, they say, oh, that's what I need. That's what I need. It doesn't just hit
Mhm.
them intellectually, it resonates on a deep emotional level. So when I said to her, leading safely through the minefield, she said, that's me. That's me. That's who I am. That's who I want to be for people. That's what I want to do in companies. Okay. So let's get to the decision-making tool. A headhunter comes to her and said, I got a great opportunity for you. It's this fabulous company. It's doing really well. It's on a steady trajectory up, and it needs a competent hand to keep it on that path. Any CEO would give their eye teeth for that opportunity. What does she say? No, not interested. And then he said, what are you talking about? She said, no, it's not challenging enough. He said, well, I have this heaping pile of garbage over here, but I'm embarrassed to show it to you. She says, no, no, that's what I want to see.
Mhm.
That's what I want to see. And so he shows her this tire fire of a company. And there is the challenge that is going to engage her brain, right? So company A, the
Mhm.
company 99 out of 100 CEOs would jump at the opportunity to take. Company B, nobody wants that one but her, because she's all about leading safely through the minefield. And that company at the moment is a minefield. So that's how purpose works for you, right? And same for me, transforming confusion into clarity. If someone says, can you help me dig a ditch? And it's like, well, no, that's not my skill. That's not my life. That's not my purpose. Someone comes to me and says, can you help me figure out this difficult problem? It's like, I'm jumping in. Yeah, I love to do that.
One of the things when I work with leadership teams, and it's frequent that it's clear they don't know their why, that they don't understand their purpose. And I do a micro exercise. If it's a team I'm only going to be with for a short time, just to get them to focus on priorities.
Sure.
Reset is, of course, as a podcast, we understand corporate work, corporate dynamics. We're focused on individuals who are resetting, who are experiencing transition and transformation and reinvention as a result of technology and work, longevity, and there's that fourth component, purpose, that for me, the pillars of this podcast are focused on. As I take things from a company view to an individual view, I think individuals can have just as big of a struggle as leadership teams, especially I think I want to talk about two segments of the population. Those of a certain age, that would include the two of us, and we've done so many things, and we enjoy so many things. So, narrowing down that purpose, and we feel like we're limiting ourselves when we're not. So, I'll come back to that because we'll talk about that first. The second one is the younger generation, the early career people who have fewer life experiences to fall back on to understand what gets them juiced up. And I think we know because of the academic papers out there and the industry papers that they are really struggling with feeling lost. And I think that's a product of COVID. It's a product of such a dynamic changing world out there. And they don't know their purpose because they don't have a lot to lean on to know what felt good when they zigged and zagged. So if we go back to the seasoned band that you and I are in and having so many interests. Interests aren't purpose. How do you, and you are your tool, what you offer and how you help people navigate this. How do you navigate having a really broad set of interests and loves for activity? How do you navigate refining that into 7 small words
Or less.
or less?
Yeah.
Or less.
Well, it's the So imagine an accomplishment that you're really proud of, right? You look back, say, yeah, it's really accomplished. And
Mhm.
it you could have been doing it on your own, or you could have been a cast of thousands. It doesn't matter. Just it was a great accomplishment, like in your own
Mhm. Mhm.
and you're really proud of it. Well, what was likely happening is as you're working on that accomplishment, you're really excited because you want to make it come to fruition. So all the steps involved, you were excited about doing, and got to get done. And when you're like that, we call that being in a flow state.
Yes.
You're just inspired, and it's
Mhm.
almost like you got blinkers on, and but you're in a flow state. When you're in a flow state, your purpose is raging. It's working overtime there, right? Because the reason you're pouring your heart into this, whatever this accomplishment is because it's aligned with your beliefs, wants, and talents. You don't know that yet, but it is. And so what we do is we take an accomplishment and we break it down and we say, you know, well, first of all, but tell us about the key components of this accomplishment. What was the challenge? What were you trying to accomplish? What's the barrier that's in the way of that? And then you are proud of it because you did something really good. And so one of the steps in the process, and it makes people uncomfortable, but you got to do it, is you have to describe your brilliance in the process. And again, you could be cast of thousands, but your little piece you did in a way that made you really proud. What made you really proud? What was so brilliant about what you did? And I make you describe your brilliance and all the characteristics of the human being that exhibited that brilliance. And it's from that we distill in partnership with AI, which is built right into the tables that
Yes.
you're working through, um, from your brilliance and the personal characteristics of a person who exhibits that brilliance, we distill your beliefs, wants, and talents. So, yeah, you've got a really broad range of skills and interests and experience and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But we can't deal that big, right? So we had to find something smaller, an accomplishment, and say, what does this tell us about you? And then in the end, you discover your beliefs, wants, and talents from that. Um, so that's the process of capturing all of this by focusing on an accomplishment. Because you focus on the accomplishment, you get your beliefs, wants, and talents, you
Mhm.
discover your purpose statement,
Mhm.
and then you see, oh, it doesn't just relate to that accomplishment, it relates to everything. You look around and you say, oh, yeah, yeah, everywhere. I'm doing me transforming confusion into clarity. Yeah, no, I'm doing that everywhere.
I love it. And, and what you've described is the value in taking the time, investing in yourself to do this because I like to do a lot of things. Anyone who looks at my LinkedIn profile says, wow, you do so many things, blah, 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 blah. But when you get down to just those few words, then it can really inform what you do. So that's why I think this is also super valuable to people who are just starting their true adulthood, post university, and who they are. Have you had much? But those
Oh,
people are usually not real focused on purpose.
I have a
It's just
funny
not
story.
time. They just want to get a job, get an apartment, get a dog. So
They do, but I think that they are more inclined to things like purpose and wellness and self-care and, all these sort of things
yes,
that the modern day, rapacious capitalist society tries to drum out of us.
now, be careful. But does
So,
it work the same for my 25-year-old godson who, does he has a different set of experiences. Um, his actually, if I as I think about achievements, and you know what one of my achievements was, we've talked about it. he would have similar, outdoor related interests that I'm sure he would wrap achievements around. It would be like a 10-pound bass out of a certain lake where he's from in Tennessee.
Right.
But does your tool still work for those who are earlier in their adulthood to
Yeah.
narrowing?
So,
Because I can imagine how valuable this would be if it informed like it did for your CEO friend. Nope,
yeah.
not interested in that job. Nope,
Yeah.
don't wanna date that person. Nope,
Yep.
nope, that trip isn't appealing to me because people are clear what they want to
Yeah.
involve themselves in.
That's the thing. That's the end result is the clarity and the confidence that comes from it. So
Mhm.
I had a funny experience. I guess it was about a year ago. I'm in a supermarket. I'm standing in line to check out. And there are these two mothers behind me who obviously know each other. They're chit-chatting. And I hear one of them refer to the crisis of graduation.
Oh, oh, oh.
Crisis of
For
graduation.
her or for the child?
Oh,
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 okay, okay. Keep going.
because, and the crisis is they're thinking about their children. It's like, oh, are they going to, are they going to be able to get a job? Are they going to be able to find a place in the world? Will they get married? Will they be happy? Will they be, all of these things, right? When you leave university, that really is, you're now making the transition into real serious adulthood
Mhm,
where you're flying on your own, right?
mhm, mhm.
But for the parents, it's like, oh, I had an empty nest I experienced an empty nest 4 years ago. It was a little traumatic, got my way through it,
Mhm.
and I developed an affection for the empty nest. And now my child is moving back in
Okay.
claiming my space.
Yes.
That's the crisis for the mother, right? And so, um, yeah, so I encourage parents to give the gift of purpose as a graduate. Like, what a great
Okay.
graduation gift
Mhm.
from a parent to their child. Give the gift of purpose so that you know for the rest of your life what it is that makes you uniquely remarkable. Actually, I want to expand this into a bigger issue. We've got 8 billion people on this planet, approximately.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm going to venture well over half of those people walk around every day thinking there's nothing special about them. And
I
therefore, they don't deserve anything special. And I'm here to tell you that as long as we can distinguish one human being from another, every human being has something that makes them uniquely remarkable. And what a shame, whether you believe you've got one trip on this planet or this is just, one in a long string of
Mhm. Mhm.
trips to this
Experiences.
planet,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, it doesn't matter. While you're here, shouldn't you know that one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable? Shouldn't you? Isn't that the most basic thing you should know about yourself? And when you know there is something remarkable about you, that elevates your confidence. And it's like you can't go back, right?
Mhm.
You now can articulate your superpower in a clear, concise, and compelling way, and nobody can take that away from you ever again.
Mhm.
So in the first instance, it elevates your confidence because, yeah, there is something special about me,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I can say what it is. But the other thing is that, yeah, you use it as we were talking about it, this mechanical tool that helps you make better decisions because they're aligned with your beliefs, wants, and talents.
Yeah.
So, yeah, same thing for
Yeah.
students.
Well, as you talk, I'm sure you've been told this before, you're very animated. You are passionate about purpose, right?
I
And
had
as
an
you just
Italian wife.
no, well, and I call it Southern because I'm forever triggering Zoom's little gestures, not intending to.
Oh, right, right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. But as you talk, you're passionate about what you're doing.
yeah.
And it comes out as you work through the course and the exercises, um, that there is emotion in purpose, that there needs to be
Absolutely.
as it gets defined, I think you called it emotional resonance, that matters more than the intellectual, uh,
No, it doesn't. It's not that it
words.
matters more. They have to be equal. So
Okay,
it
okay,
needs,
thank you.
it needs to make logical sense.
Mhm,
And that's one of the reasons why, we strive for 7 words or less, because when it's that short, you don't have room for all those nonsense words, for all of that
Oh, I
padding.
can put nonsense words into a 7-word scope.
Well, not in the final product. Um, but oh, I lost
No,
where.
you're fine. Just that the importance of there being an
Oh,
emotional trigger in there, and it
right.
not just being something flat or
Yeah.
academic.
No, and the reason for that is you're dealing with 2 different parts of your brain, right?
Okay.
So it needs to resonate, sorry, it needs to make sense on a logical level, so that
Mhm.
your cerebral cortex, the part at the front here
Mhm.
that does all your rational thinking, the little voice in your head lives there, and you hear it talking, and you think that that's you thinking. But no, the thinking is done, the decisions are made in your limbic system,
Okay.
which is where your feelings and
Mhm.
emotions
Mhm.
are,
Mhm.
are processed.
Mhm.
And your limbic system, and Simon Sinek talks about this in his first TED talk in a really, really good way. Like he explains it really
Mhm.
well. But your not your cerebral cortex, your I just said it. Your limbic system has no capacity for language. So it makes decisions, and then your cerebral cortex sort of says, okay,
Translates.
me,
Mhm.
brief me on the decision so I can put it into words and make it
Mhm.
logical, right? So the logic will appeal to here, and the emotional resonance will appeal to your limbic system. The
Mhm.
thing is, when you can embed the emotional resonance in your limbic system, that's when it becomes sustainable. That's when it
Mhm.
that's when you become branded, as opposed to it's a thought that's going through your head.
Mhm.
It's easy to forget, right?
Yeah.
So there's 2 criteria for um, for a purpose statement that is a correct purpose statement, so that you've got it down to the right words. 1, is it logical? And 2, does it resonate on a deep emotional level? But as I said before, when I was talking about my own, not only with you, with other people as well. So, like I
Right.
said,
Right.
when people are confused, when they have a problem that they can't solve, then hearing
Mhm.
transforming confusion into clarity, it's like, oh, I want to talk to him.
Mhm. Mhm. Mm. So one of the things that also resonated for me when I was going through the exercises, I mentioned earlier how we have so many things that we enjoy doing that it's a little daunting to think about limiting ourselves to just a half dozen words. Um, so I thought I would cut myself off from parts of the world that I enjoyed. I thought it would make me become exclusive, not above, just it would exclude too many things. But you have a definite mindset about how having clarity on your purpose invites collaboration
Mm,
because and the way I see that early into this journey with your materials is when you're clear on what you enjoy, you can communicate that clearly and then other people can decide to join you or no bad reflection, they can decide that that's not aligned to theirs and so you'll naturally attract more people, projects, things to your life um that naturally then are going to become collaborative because you all want the same things.
yep. We call that the magnet effect.
Oh,
And what people often forget about a magnet is that it repels as powerfully as it attracts. And so you want your purpose statement to be like a magnet, where in the right situation, it attracts.
mhm.
And here's a situation where you want it to repel. You're hiring,
Okay.
and you communicate um, what your purpose is.
Mhm.
And there are going to be people who look at that and say, that's me. That's home. I need to get hired there.
Yeah.
There are going to be other people who say, no, I want to punch in at 9 and punch out at 5 and just do it. No, that's too much work for me.
Mhm.
Well, they don't even bother applying.
Mhm.
Um, but I think a better story to show how purpose invites collaboration. So imagine Ken, my business partner, and I are working at your company, and we've got two offices side by side. And on my door, it says, Ian, transforming confusion into clarity. Ken's purpose statement was causing wow.
Oh, fun.
Ken was the kind of guy in a blueprint session. The
Yeah.
client would be talking, I'd be talking, blah, blah, blah. Ken sitting there quietly. And then Ken says, well, it kind of occurs to me, blah. And everyone just goes, what? Where did that come from? That's brilliant. Causing wow.
Okay.
So imagine you're working on some project with your team and you have some intractable problem. You've been working on it for days.
Mm-hmm.
You can't figure
Mm-hmm.
it out.
Mm-hmm.
You walk down the hall. Whose door are you going to knock on? Transforming confusion into clarity or causing wow? Well, you're going to knock on the transforming confusion into clarity door. Now, let's say you get the problem solved and now you're running ahead with the project, but you feel that it's got no pizzazz, it's
Yeah,
got
yeah.
no
Mhm.
appeal.
We need to
Whose door do you
launch
knock on
and
now?
grow. Mhm.
For me,
We need to launch. We need to grow this idea.
we need to
Needs to be
create some
launched.
excitement
Right.
around.
Yeah.
So whose door do you knock on to help you out? Well,
Ken.
you walk back past the transforming confusion into clarity door and you
Mhm.
knock on the causing wow door. Ken, come help us. Inject some wow into our project, right? So
Mhm.
that's how, when you know who you are, you can communicate it better to people so that they know when to choose you and when not to,
Mhm.
and you know when to choose them and when not to.
Well, and I've done some exercises with some executive teams that I've sat with, and I think it's super important that everyone understands the labels we each want to wear so that we can do exactly what you've described. So that we can say, when I need it organized, executed, when I need to know for certain, with certainty, what's occurring, and for the whole company and distributor network to understand, I need Tonya. But when I want wow, I need to walk down the hall
Yeah.
and find Ken or who, and for people to be clear on that, because it also, I think it reframes the relationships to be tension. Ooh, we're different. He's always disturbing my plan, to understanding why he behaves the way he does, because his his gift is to create the wow. And
Yes.
maybe there are times I've had the Kens where I've had to say, now's not the time to create wow.
Yeah.
That instead of it just being friction, instead of thinking the other person is wrong, you understand who they are and what they're contributing. And we can cut people more slack when we're clear on what's happening and why it is. So I'm a big fan of, absent a tattoo on my left cheek, what are some of the ways that you've seen people use to live their purpose besides the things they associate themselves with? But how does it work to just walk around saying, I catalyze transformation? Um, how do you
I
see people?
got so there was a university that was my client,
Yeah.
and the communications guy, right, the EVP of
Mm-hmm.
communication, great guy, and he was 5 years away from retirement,
Okay.
and he was fed up with 14 to 16-hour days,
Yep.
6 to 7 days a week. So this guy was feeling like the rat on the treadmill,
Yeah.
and he needed to change. And so we looked at, we did his blueprint, we looked at his career, we looked at his
Mm-hmm.
personal life, we looked at, and how do you end up being a communications guy, especially at a senior level? Well, you've got to have a special talent
That's
for
right.
making things simple, right? You got to take complex stuff and you've got to figure out how to package it and
Mm-hmm.
communicate
Mm-hmm.
in a way that people can receive it. And that almost always means simpler, right? And when he realized that his commitment in life was to simplicity, that he was living a life of complexity.
Bam.
And knowing that he was actually committed to simplicity allowed him to give himself the permission to quit his senior job
Yeah.
and take a job for the last 5 years as a senior writer
Mm.
at a
Okay.
company
Yeah.
who came in at 9 and left at 5. And he had time for the rest of his life, you know,
Mhm.
after 5 o'clock.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Writing for him came as naturally as breathing. So he just wrote all day,
Mhm.
all awesome. And then I reached out to him recently, and the 5 years was up. He got to 65.
Okay.
So he's working this job that's much less stress,
Mhm.
but it's
Mhm.
still contributing to, it was 5 more years of contributing to his retirement fund.
Mhm.
65, hit his retirement goal. He and his wife moved to the West Coast. They've got a lovely place on Vancouver Island. And now what's he doing? Writing novels.
Oh,
Written his first novel.
yeah. I
He's
love it.
emptied the outline for his second novel.
Mhm.
And he's living a life of simplicity. And he's happy
On his terms.
on his terms,
Mhm.
living life on his terms.
And I love how sometimes we see that transition, those transition steps happen organically, and we think people can't cut it anymore. People can't cut the grind. And we look down on people who, as I get wiser, I start to see no, they're just more clear on who they are and what matters. But the part I really loved about your story was by doing what mattered to him, it set himself up for chapter 347, not sure for his life, but to be a full-time author.
Right. That's what his real passion was writing
Yeah.
novels.
And it would have been harder to have just made that transition straight out of an executive level communications role. Um, he had a
It's,
5-year bridge to take him into the practice of writing. You and I are both authors. We know it's a practice.
yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and
Is
I love that. I love how it shows the importance of being willing to live into your purpose.
exactly. And there is one very specific dynamic in there that I want to identify that was very powerful. So first of all, he was living under the assumption that he was going to keep this senior job and live with this stress for another 5 years.
Okay.
When he realized that he had spent his whole life striving for simplicity without really knowing it,
Mm-hmm.
when I told you the story, I said it gave him the permission. Now, let's stop right there for a moment and examine that little psychological dynamic. He never knew that he could do this. He never knew that taking a step backwards or taking a step down in hierarchy was an option for him. He never knew that doing something like that would fulfill his needs. He only knew that, taking a step backward is, as you said, it's looked at as failure.
Couldn't cut it. Yeah.
But when he realized that he was committed to simplicity, it changed his brain.
Mm-hmm.
It changed how he thought about himself and his life.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and it allowed him to say, if people think I'm taking a step back, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what they think because I'm so grounded now in what I need and want because I've defined my purpose so
I'm
clearly.
confident and clear
Yeah.
in who I
Yeah.
am.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so confident in that decision that he knows there's chatter going on behind the scenes. He doesn't care. This is, he made a and I'm going to put this in very black and white terms.
Okay.
He made a powerful decision to demote himself.
Yes. on
He
his terms.
strode into that decision
Mm-hmm.
powerfully and confidently. I'm in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and I was pitching. We're just littered with golf courses. And I was pitching to one of the most exclusive golf courses in Toronto, and I was in
Okay.
front of their board, and they're all McKinsey and Bain,
Yeah,
APMG,
I
and
know the profile.
you know the profile. And I'm sitting in front of them, and the chair says to me, "What is it that excites you about getting us as a client? Is that you can then go out and pitch other golf courses." And I looked at him and I said, "No, no. What excites me about getting you as a client is how I'm going to change you, how you are going to think fundamentally differently about this business, and how you're going to see that it has so much more value than you ever realized, that changes you, and that makes you more confident, more excited, more inspired than you were before." And I love that change, triggering that change by doing what I do. Most organizations, I refer to them as organizations because I'm talking about
Mhm.
companies, but also, charities, not for profits, all
Yeah.
that, all those sorts. They're all
Groups.
the same, right?
That's right.
Um, and where was I going with that? The changing. Oh, so every single organization in the world is in a constant struggle to figure out what its true value is.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes up with features and benefits and it experiments with these ones. It runs with these ones for a while. It does all of that. But what that process is it's like the old parable about the three people who are blindfolded in the presence of an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
One of them
Mm-hmm.
grabs the trunk and says, "Oh, it's a hose." The other one feels the side of the elephant and says, "Oh, it's a wall." The other one grabs the tail. The third one grabs the tail and says, "Oh, it's a rope." Right? They've all got a piece of the big picture of the full value.
Mm-hmm.
But at no time in that decades long struggle to figure out your value and express it in terms of features and benefits do you ever capture the full value.
So I want to hit this as our last segment. The people who are listening to this podcast, very likely are very interested in purpose naturally. It's like, I'm a planner, so I used to carry around the big Franklin Covey system
Yeah,
and
right, right.
back in the day, I'm all in. And but I was when I was in their classes, I was always surrounded by people with our big planners and that loved all the tabs and the colors. People tend to seek out what they enjoy. So the people listening right now are very likely inclined toward this, chomping at the bit, hanging on to, everything you've said they resonate with. But we are surrounded by people who are all kinds of things, scattered, in a fog, executing without clarity, which is chaos. What is your recommendation for how to engage people into seeing more clearly the value of this, of thinking this way, not using your tool, but in getting clear on what am I about so I can execute to who I am? How do
Well, I
you?
think I think the answer was in your question,
Okay.
right? Which is, how do I become the best possible me? And it's to discover what makes you uniquely remarkable and then be that as much as you possibly can. And you will have the thrill of your lifetime being yourself and not
Mhm.
being other things because you're now, what's a small step that you can take to start to get there? Because I do. Selfishly, I do think that my course is the way to get there. But here's a little bit of homework you can do in advance. And I say the same thing to companies. Companies say to
Okay.
me, "What can we do in advance to you? And what do we need to do?" And I said, think about this question. If everything that you do, all of your activities,
Mhm.
are a means to an end, what's the end purpose? And for a business, this is a really discombobulating question because
Mhm.
their products, selling their products is their purpose. It's like, no, it's just one of your activities. For this exercise, you got to raise yourself above all
Mhm.
of your activities
Mhm.
and say they are all a means to an end. What's your end purpose? I read this great book in university. It was written by a computer science prof at Northwestern.
Okay.
And it was a philosophy book written by a computer science prof. And it's called Gödel, Escher, and Bach. And Gödel is a mathematician
Mhm.
who, I don't know, about 100 years ago, rocked not only the world of mathematics, but just the world in general, because his theorem was so all encompassing to all
Okay.
of life. Escher is the artist, the optical illusion
Yes.
artist we all
Yes.
had in our dorm room.
Rocks melting against a desert mountain, kind of, yes.
Yeah.
Very familiar.
And then Bach is the guy who's kind of
His
complicated, but
concertos. Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so Gödel, Escher, and Bach, and he described them as three shadows cast from the same stone. And his book attempts to describe the stone. And I loved that stone metaphor. And I've used it, I've stolen it
Mhm.
ever
Mhm.
since, right? So your purpose, that one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable, is the stone from which all the shadows in your life are cast, whether you're an individual
Mhm.
or you're a business, right? Everything should emanate from what makes you uniquely remarkable. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
No, you did. The original question was how to help other people see the value in defining our individual purposes, how to get them to come along for this journey. And I think you did by showing the intrinsic value in using what you know,
mhm, mhm. And
right?
most likely they're going to get those feelings
Mhm.
of, oh, I want to live a life of meaning and purpose. I'm not happy
Mhm.
doing what I'm doing. Usually when one of these trigger events happens, right? So they're
Mhm.
in a sense
Mhm.
primed for it because they've had a trigger event. It's created uncertainty about the future. They're now living in a stew of anxiety and
Mhm.
possible fear.
Mhm.
And it's like, how the heck do I get myself out of this boiling pot? And that's when they start to look for purpose. So they're primed at that point. And then the question becomes, how do you do it? And I am convinced that the only reason that most people aren't purpose driven is because they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to figure out their purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you ask 100 people on
Beautiful.
the street, what's the definition of purpose? I think probably 95 of them will say, why I exist. Right. So then the question becomes, why do you exist? How the heck do you answer that question? I don't know. That's too big for me. It's over my pay grade.
I love it. And this has been a fantastic example filled conversation. That's the difference in this conversation and a lot of the conversations I have. Because all the conversations I have are about future thinking. So there aren't answers yet. There's
Right, right.
beliefs and perceptions about how we're going to get there and what the impact will look like. And this has been filled with how people used purpose to make changes they might not have had the courage to do otherwise.
Tangible asset. Tangible. It's not this
Right.
woo-woo thing. It is a
Right.
tangible asset. When you get to the fork in the road and you got to know, do I take the left fork or the right fork? Purpose will help you. Every time you hit that fork, even if there's four roads, it'll
Mhm.
help you.
Well, I do believe you have a good tool to help people look at that, to deconstruct in order to see what the themes are and then rearrange those in a meaningful way. Tell our audience what how best to get to that. And if I may, can I tell them your little surprise?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Ian mentioned at the top of the call they were in a soft lunch. I don't know how long this will last, but Ian has offered for our listeners in the show notes, I'll be publishing a 50% off code. So whatever you see when you log in, you'll be able to get 50% off of the price of the system while they're going through this soft launch, because like all companies, they want to grow their base. They want to get feedback from early users, and early users like us, they really care about this. They're going to exercise the system. I need to let Ian pitch, not me, but I think it's wonderful and marvelous that you have offered to us this gift of an opportunity to incentivize us to try it. Go forward, use something that helps you structure something that has been intuitive until now for a lot of
Yes,
people.
yes.
So
Bring
tell
it
us
to
how
the
to.
surface,
Mhm.
make it intentional. And
Right.
the thing about the fit, like if you go to the show notes, you'll see that there's a discount code there. And when you register, you can see purposeu.ai on my screen, right?
I can. It's been there.
That's the website. So you go to purposeu.ai, you register, and on the payment screen, you enter the discount code, and you'll see that your price will drop by half. But not only do you get that discount code, you can give it to other people. You can give the gift of purpose. So if you have a student who's about to graduate, because we're coming up to that time,
Mm-hmm.
and you're worried about the crisis of graduation, give the gift of purpose. If you have parents who are retiring, what the heck are they going to do to
Oh, yeah.
keep out of each other's hair
Mm-hmm.
and stay married? Give them the gift of purpose. Give your spouse the gift of purpose. Um, and so you'll see the code there, and you can use it yourself, but also you can pass it on to others so that they can use it as well. You can spread the gospel of purpose.
And give people something to actually physically, tangibly do something with it, not just think about it, not just listen to a
Right, right.
podcast, but actually do something for themselves. And I think it's self-care. It's a gift to
But
ourselves.
it is so self-care. It is so self-care, right? Because getting back to trigger event, uncertainty about the future, anxiety or fear. Who wants to feel that anxiety and fear all the time? Right? You've now got a tool to mitigate that.
Perfect. Perfect. And thank you. Thank you for the offer that you've given to us. Thank you for creating this tool for us. I can't wait to see how it evolves. And I can't wait to see the people that we will hear about over time that took this. It's not a leap of faith, because leaps of faith are huge. This is just, let me get a little more intentional about how I
Yes.
operate using this.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
This is not a sea change activity of life. It is a let's get focused activity of
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
so
And if you take the course, there's the idea is get out of the stands and onto the court.
Yep,
This is how you do it. Stop being an observer, get onto the court and be a player. Know who you are, figure out what makes you uniquely remarkable, and then you can be a player.
it's a journey we should all take, and should is a big loaded word, but it is a journey that we should all take.
It's a journey we encourage you all to take.
Nicely said. Um, an award-winning author on the other screen that is helping me with the language. I agree, but I do think it's important, and I again appreciate this opportunity.
Oh, I'm the one thanking you. I really appreciate it. I loved this conversation. It was really fun talking to you, and I love the opportunity to, to talk to your audience about something that I think is really important.
We'll do more of this. Well, no doubt. I think we're not done. I think there will be something interesting come our way through this partnership of this podcast, and the people that also join us in partnership as they take part in taking the course and growing and learning. And as we bring this back, maybe we'll bring you back with someone who
Yeah,
made a big
that would be
pivot
fun.
because of what they did. That would be interesting to do in a
That
few
would be
months.
fun. That would be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
I agree.
Fantastic. So everyone, thank you. This has been Reset, where purpose meets possibility. Uh, we did that long before you, Ian. So yeah, that just shows how much we're aligned.
I'm not the only one doing purpose.
No,
It's a
no.
big tent we can all fit inside.
It is a big tent, and we are so excited that you joined us today for in our little side tent to have this conversation. Thank you again,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a marvelous day. This is Reset, where purpose meets possibility. Good day. Thanks for joining us on Reset. Remember, Transformation is a journey, not a destination. So until next time, keep exploring what's possible. I'm Tonya Long, and this is Home. This is Reset.